Good evening and welcome to Mindful Live 341. I'm your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is presently the 5th of February. Wow. Isn't February off to a racing start? 5 days already gone in February. Imagine that. It is presently the 5th of February in the year of our Lord 2024. And I'm here with you. Once you're on the inside, make sure you hit that like button. Double tap the screen over there on TikTok. That's how you hit the like button there. Hit it as many times as you like. It really does help the algorithm. I know you could get fed up of hearing everybody say the same thing, but it's right. It really does help with the algorithm, or our machine overlords who tell us what we should and shouldn't listen and look at. They are the ones determining this, and the likes really do help. So if you're looking at this on repeat over on YouTube, good time to hit that like button. Anywhere you are, double tap the screen, hit that like button. Dalip Jairam says, I have a job starting in Shagrama soon. That traffic horrible. That sounds like a nightmare. I want nothing to do with Shagramas in peak hours. I only want to go there in the most kind of downtime. Like, let me go midnight or something. Nah. CM Stickman says it still have laws for 1980s. What's still in play, what we don't know about, and no one say to update them or change some. Jan says January is February and a half, so February is just the other half of February. Ha! I don't like the January insults, but that's a good one. That's a good one. All right, people, today we're starting off with a story I was looking at since last week. I just like the tenor and tone of this story. It's coming out from Tobago, and a kind of personal interest story about a businessman, one of those glass bottom boat businessmen. And the following of this story, according to his life and business, I find it tells a good story, and it shows a good track for Tobagonians and some of the direct problems that Tobago faces. And I think it may be an answer to just that, the nature of those problems that Tobago faces. So let's jump into that story. Frankie tours upgrades with $3 million boat. One of Tobago's most popular tourism service providers is upgrading for 2024. Frankie Tours and Rentals has announced that it will launch a new glass-bottom boat on Wednesday to enhance the experience for passengers while they enjoy the island's marine magnificence. Owner of the boat, Michael Frank, dropped hints about the new vessel on social media last December, and posted a picture of the boat on January 25th with a photo captioned, "She's in the water, giving God thanks and praise for his continued guidance, love and favor." RL says, boy, my island getting publicity. Of course, bro. Of course, that's my island too. The project has been in the works for over 2 years, and Frank is delighted to see his vision come to pass. The new boat, Millennium 1, is significantly larger than its predecessor, with an unofficial capacity of 180 passengers in comparison to the last boat's 75. That's a lot more people, and spans 60 feet in length and 20 feet in width, compared to the previous boat's 52 by 14. In an interview with Newsday, Frank was jubilant as he spoke about his new vessel. "This is a very large upgrade to all our boats. Most of the other boats are wooden with fiberglass. This one is entirely fiberglass with plastic boarding and lots of aluminum and stainless steel. It also offers 2 bars, free Wi-Fi, great storage space for passengers' luggage and other items, a washroom facility, a wider covered area, and improved lighting for nighttime sailings." I liking what I'm hearing from Frankie. And he's offering his boat for all kind of other considerations and occasions. Not just for the sightseeing at an island pool or the Boko Reef. You know, you go and do your weddings and whatever there. Who knows? Might have a party or two on top of Frankie's there. But I like the history that Frankie gave there. Now a veteran, Frank has been guiding locals and tourists for about 40 years. In unorthodox fashion, his career on the sea began as an unintentional cicerone to a stranger. I started off accidentally. I worked for the government as a reef patrol officer, and I patrolled the reef on speedboats to ensure that glass-bottom boats don't damage the reef and the ecosystem on the whole. One day, this elderly American guy came up to me and asked me to take him on a little tour. I told him that I'm not really a tour guide, but I would have taken him sightseeing for free. He was so amazed about how much I knew about the environment and the history of Tobago. I grew up in Castara, a small village where I was raised in the forest, more or less, so I knew about the plants and animals long before I started studying to be a tour guide. He said the American suggested he should pursue his talent as a career. However, he was hesitant, as he was already a Marine police officer. This is the part where I like this story. But he insisted that he was going to send more people for a tour. Frank continued. 2 weeks later, I received a call saying that there was a whole group of 14 people waiting for me at the airport to be given an island tour, sent by the guy who I previously gave a tour to. The following day, I rented a bus and took them on a trip. Things just went on from there. I eventually had to retire from my government job to concentrate only on tours. I like Frankie. Be like Frankie. Provide something useful for the economy, in so much that you don't have to be an anchor on the state's purse. Tobago needs 60,000 more Frankies. Where what they're interested in isn't the salary from the state, from the THA, but in providing something out there. RL says Frankie is a very specific example though, bro. Yes, he is. He took advantage of a niche in the market with low competition, but I get your point. Maybe so, but I won't say it like that. I would say that this example of Frankie is an example of the free markets at work. If you are able to provide a useful service, you can be paid for it. Are you willing to tell me that you are unable to provide anything useful for your entire island nation? There's nothing that you could provide out there that people would be willing to pay you to get? If that's the case, then maybe, good night, Paul Duncan, then maybe you need to increase your skills and usefulness. What's that, RL? I like Frankie. I just wanted to, make sure I get that article through. Big up Frankie wholesale over in Tobago, found his niche, and say, hey, I don't need government to pay me. I could pay myself and employ 25 people while I'm at it. Perfection. Give Frankie the chief secretary job. All right. Moving right along into politics. and economy. The Dragon gas deal is back up in the forefront. As you know, many people are worried about with the US reimposing sanctions on Venezuela. What's the position that this whole Dragon gas deal is going to take? And I mean, there's some cause to worry, but it has been pretty widely noted that the reimposition of sanctions on Venezuela has nothing to do with our version of the Dragon gas deal. That's a separate thing, but there are concerns, and the concerns are being raised. One of the things that I am bothered by with the Dragon gas deal, and not only the Dragon gas deal, but many other such things, is the way that governments work in a secretive manner and are allowed to work in a secretive manner, but they're working with our money. Like, that's the problem. Private businesses, I understand why there's some secrecy. You don't want everyone knowing your money business. But when you're talking government, this is everyone's money business. So for governments to function like those, I hate it. I know what they are very well, Dalip Jairan, those non-disclosure agreements, but I hate it when it comes to the government level. I find that sounds ridiculous. You use my money to do some business, and now you're telling me that you cannot tell me how you're going to use my money exactly. Something makes me squint a bit with that. Munilal claims secret company formed for Dragon deal. Our Pooch East MP Dr. Rudal Munilal claimed that a company has been secretly formed to help government execute the Dragon gas deal with Venezuela. He made the claim at a news conference at the UNC's headquarters in Shogunas on Sunday. They have been caught with their proverbial pants down on the Dragon gas matter, and it is an ugly sight indeed. Munilal quoted from a copy of the Venezuelan government's gazette dated January 29th to support his argument. When the day comes when we depend on Venezuela for accountability and transparency, we reach. Our democracy itself has collapsed. Our public institutions have collapsed when we depend on Venezuela for accountability. Now, I understand what Dr. Munilal is complaining about here. Now, the secret company that he's talking about, the energy minister responded to that. Young denies UNC claims about secret company in Dragon deal. Energy minister Stuart Young dismissed the claims about that secret company. What the energy minister said is that it's not a secret. The company was formed as in businesses, those things are done to handle this specific license agreement. So we incorporate a specific company for that, and that's the reason for it. But here's the problem with that. Going back to what Dr. Munilal was complaining about. Dr. Munilal highlighted an incident that happened last year, I believe, on this whole Dragon gas deal. Munilal reminded the media that last month, not last year, sorry, in the Senate, its Vice President, Nigel De Freitas, had to break a 15 tie in the government's favor in a vote on a private motion that asked for details about the Dragon deal. On that occasion, the 9 independent senators voted with the opposition 6 in support of the motion filed by opposition Senator Wade Mack. Opposition and independent senators have been asking about the details of this deal, and the government insists, we are not going to tell you. And then they come to insult and lambast Dr. Munilal. And I understand Dr. Munilal is a good candidate for insults and derision, because, you know, he says some offensive, annoying things sometimes. But how can you be angry with the opposition because they're assuming things? The opposition is only coming up with wild assumptions pertaining to this Dragon deal when you aren't telling anyone anything. for the opposition to get information, they're looking at the Gazette from Venezuela. I would suggest to the government, if you are so offended by the suppositions of the opposition, you can cure that by telling us what's going on. Seems simple enough for me. Young also dismissed claims from Arapooch West MP that he identified the cost of the pipeline from the Dragon Field to the Hibiscus platform in TT Waters as $100 million US. In a statement sent via WhatsApp after the conference, Young said the UNC opposition continues its campaign of misinformation and attempting to mislead the population when it comes to the energy sector, with a recent emphasis being on the matters surrounding the Dragon Gas Field development. Well, again, Mr. Young, if you find the opposition is attempting to mislead the population, well, lead the population now. Give us the actual information. Because secrecy does not augur trust. Secrecy doesn't make the feelings of trust well up inside the spirit of the average Trinidadian when they're dealing with politicians. Like, they're sounding like they're our daddy. And I mean, coming from the PNM led by Dr. Rowley and his paternalistic nature, no surprise there, but it nearly sounds like they're expecting a kind of daddy-child relationship between the government and the citizens of Trinidad. Listen, boy, I am your father. I tell you, trust me when I'm going to buy the house. You don't have to know about my deals and my details in buying our home. Like, okay, if it's daddy, that's one thing. I'll allow daddy to take care of the mortgage. I'll trust my father, you know, you're not trying to bankrupt the family. But you are not my daddy. And we are not a family. We are a country. And I don't trust that you are not trying to bankrupt the country. I'm sorry, I don't trust that. That's not something that's an automatic trust when it comes to politicians. In fact, I probably trust you to try to siphon off some more money than it would cost. That's the direction of that trust. So you can't be offended by the opposition's suggestions and you are telling the population nothing. And it really doesn't give a good feeling. It reminds me of how PM talked to MP about good behavior. People don't understand, if the government mismanages our money, we will starve. If the government mismanages our money, the country will fail. The reality is the people who are capable and competent, they very likely would survive. They may leave, they would go somewhere else, but the country itself would fail. And we don't want that. Trinidad artist came on 6 charged, granted bail for being gang member. This is interesting. I would like to see how this court case goes. I would really want to follow this court case. Now, unfortunately, I think they charged some guys from Beetham with allegedly being gang members and leaders of a gang, and that case took something like what? Weren't those charges since nearly the SOE time, something like that, and it finished last year or start of this year sometime there. So I don't know how long this case is going to go through the courts, but this is going to be very interesting to me. I would like to see if they could concrete down a case against this artist for being a gang member, and a lot of it, according to the police, is based on his media presence. The police added that the arrest and charges stem from an extensive investigation into videos posted by Sanka on social media since March 2023, during which time he was observed singing and using expressive gestures in videos that seemingly incited violence and promoted the Six Gang, accompanied by his alleged self-professed affiliation as a gang member to intimidate the public. Sanka was charged with offenses under the Anti-Gang Act, being a gang member, professing to be a gang member. Apparently it is Dalip Jairam, apparently it is, because he got bail. I would like to see if in Trinidad and Tobago's courts, social media posts identifying oneself as an affiliate of particular gangs are enough to convict them. If so, I should expect a slew of convictions. I have a nagging suspicion, though, that this whole incident was a knee-jerk reactionary move to the added attention that particularly he is seeing with, I think, 2 Caribbean islands banning his performances. And I wonder if in the long run, there would be no legal cause for any of those charges. And in fact, he might make some money. I am no judge in the Trinidad and Tobago court system. But from my reading of rulings, I just don't see him being convicted with what they say there. Porter says how long the man singing about being a 6 member but no arrest. And he isn't the only one. There are people singing about being all sorts of members of all sorts of various groups. There are people who talk about it on their social media. And I seriously wonder if someone saying I am a member of a gang is enough to arrest them and actually hold conviction level weight. Because I think people are allowed to talk foolishness. I don't know. That would be very interesting, and I really want to see how that all goes. Now, speaking of gangs and groups, you regularly, when we talk about the situation in Trinidad and Tobago, we regularly licks the police and the position that the police are in treating with the crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago. But there's another group that is often not given a tongue lashing as strongly as the other bodies are responsible. The judiciary. Now, recently, there was some talk about the level of corruption in Trinidad and Tobago. The Transparency International Institute, they came out with their corruption perception index, and they released their findings, and the local chapter released their findings saying some things about the judiciary, and the judiciary was most upset about it. The judiciary has objected to statements made by Transparency International and its local chapter in its 2023 Corruption Perception Index, which claim it has not fulfilled its role in keeping other branches of government in check. It's the CPI on January 30th said a country's failed judiciary, entrenched in corruption, negatively impacts the quality of life of citizens, as persons are hesitant to avail themselves of its services for fear of retributions. Therefore, under an ineffectual judiciary, corruption will continue to thrive, thus devastating the country as a whole. In a statement issued on February 2nd, the judiciary said the 2023 CPI lumps all judiciaries across Latin America and the Caribbean into one category. It makes no effort to back up the far-reaching and contemptuous allegations that seem to be bereft of supporting data. lack understanding of the varying constitutions under which judiciaries operate. The judiciary is most upset. How dare that group impugn our integrity? How dare they? The association is calling for the statement to be corrected. The judiciary added that owing to its independence and role of dispensing justice unequivocally, perceptions may lead to the recipients of its decisions expressing different views. But it reiterated that this cannot be interpreted to mean it is failing to play its part in reducing corruption. All right. But our judiciary is upset that the corruption perception index lumped them together in the whole thing. They're saying that basically they're doing their part. But when last was someone convicted for corruption in Trinidad and Tobago? In order for the judiciary to say they're doing their part, if our country is very violent, very corrupt, but no one is convicted of corruption, how effective can you say the judiciary really is? They're saying, well, we need the evidence to show and back up the statements that you're making here. Well, I would say the evidence is in the society. The level of corruption that goes unpunished in the society. The judiciary went on, Law Association, such statements which can be described as irresponsible and gratuitous can easily have destabilizing effect on a democracy, and we must be appalled and disappointed that such an effect could be ignored by an organization which purports to aid appropriate transparency and support democracy. They're saying that by criticizing the judiciary, you might be taking a sledge to the very foundations of our democracy. You know, it's kind of amazing to me how full of themselves many sectors of our elite society are. When you hear politicians speak of themselves and the kind of air they speak of themselves with, and you hear the judiciary speak of themselves, and they're nearly speaking of themselves in a manner like you should never even be allowed to criticize the judiciary. By criticizing them, you may crumble the very fabric of society. So if the judiciary is doing rubbish, it's impossible for us to even say it at risk of crumbling the democracy. Isn't it fortunate to be in positions where you are above criticism? The untouchables. And these are the people in charge of a lot of the managing of the safety of Trinidad and Tobago. Like, okay, the police are the men on the ground, but when you look at the case of repeat offenders, Trinidad and Tobago has a repeat offender problem. Most of the crime, I don't have the statistics in front of me, but when you see the stories, many of the crimes are committed by people who are criminals already. Repeat criminals, people out on bail, people who weren't convicted. If that's the case, you could make an argument that all of the criminals have already been caught. It's just the courts keep letting them out. It could be argued that the reason we have that problem is the courts keep letting them out. The police keep catching, the courts keep releasing. And in the defensive circle, as it were, There are people coming out in defense of the Commissioner of Police. Criminologists, don't be unfair to Erla. Don't be unfair to Erla. Criminologists Darius Figuera and Kavita Chotak said it's unrealistic to expect Commissioner of Police Erla Herwood Christopher to make a significant reduction in crime after only 1 year in office. In a statement on Sunday, Figuera said an assessment of the performance of the present Commissioner of Police must be in context rather than be driven by the hysteria of the politics of crime in TT, which is driven by the politics of race. Herwood Christopher, he continued, inherited with her appointment a long-standing war within the illicit trades of TT, driven by transnational organized crime business models in conflict-seeking hegemony. From 2017, rivers of blood flowed and continue to flow, which potently indicated the present inability of the TT national security apparatus to deal with this reality previously unknown in the history of TT. Here's the problem for me and these kinds of statements. If you're telling me the commissioner cannot do anything to stop crime, then give me that kind of statement at the jump. Don't tell me you're hiring this person and you expect to see significant movement in the reduction of crime, and we don't see it. And then you come to tell the population, listen, you all have to be reasonable on the commissioner. Let's not be too hard on her, you know. Let's not be. Why is Alia who tell me that she going to do this work on her? You know, y'all tell me y'all hiring this woman and we have full confidence that we are going to see a reduction in crime. Is y'all who tell me that? Y'all could have told me, well, we're hiring this woman and really she is the prayer warrior that we have placed at the head of the police service, and because we think the police service really is in a position where they need a prayerful direction. And okay, I may disagree with it then, but at least you tell me what it's about. You're the prayer warrior and fine. But don't tell me that you're hiring a person to reduce crime when the person fails at the job. Now you're coming, well, you can't be too hard on the person that they didn't reduce crime. Don't be too... What nonsense you're telling me? Don't come now to tell me this. Come when she was appointed. Why y'all didn't come when she was appointed and tell us, well, you all know that this appointment is going to do nothing for crime? Because if you had said it, then the government itself would have said, no, of course we are appointing someone that's going to make effectual change. Now you come to say, let's not expect too much. Figuera said no commissioner of police is capable of undertaking deep-seated police reform on his or her own, and that's what he says the police service really needs. Police reform is the task of the elected politicians. To stridently attack the commissioner of police, calling for her removal, is then using the TTPS as a political scapegoat, which will not mitigate the assault of transnational organized crime on the social order. You see, here's, and again, some of my problems with this, where, you know, it's not the fault of the tool, it's the fault of the user. And in this case, the tool is a human being. Like, it's amazing to me. It's amazing. And I wouldn't doubt some of these same highly educated criminologists would be on the same gun control narratives. Some of these same people would say, well, when it comes to guns, we need to ban guns because the guns killing people. It's not about who controls the guns, no. It's about the guns themselves, so we need to take care of the guns. And then they will come out now, where the police are the tools. Guns are non-living dead objects. Tools. In this case, the police are the living tools with a brain. And they would come and say, no, let's not blame the tool. Let's blame the user of the tool, the government, those in the higher positions. Anything that the tool does wrong, no, it's not to blame the commissioner and the police, it's to blame the government. Well, here's the way I see some of this. If you, as a tool, a human tool, take a job from the government, that the government is making sure is impossible to be done properly, then you are a fool and you deserve criticism too. How are you going to take a job from the government? The government is making sure that the job is impossible to be done, according to them. The government is making sure the job cannot be done. You take the job. You know the job cannot be done with what the government is giving. And we are supposed to, feel sorry for you. No. This person took a job. They were getting money from us to do a job that they say cannot be done. But we have to feel sorry for them because it's not their fault. It's the government's fault, The government gave them that job, but you took the job. You took the job and come in front of the nation and tell the nation you're going to reduce murders by X amount in so much and so much months. You did that. How we demanding sympathy now? In a separate statement, and this second one really grinds my gears, as it were. It annoys me no end. It annoys me no end. For this reason, I could feel like put me as the representative of misogyny, and I will fly that misogyny flag high. Don't hire no woman. Let me tell you why. I'm not saying I believe that, but let me tell you why I say that. Listen to this. In a separate statement, Chotak said, even though there are those who believe that the commissioner is fully responsible for the current state of the TTPS, I don't know how realistic it is it ever was for us to expect that Mrs. Christopher could have turned it around in just 1 year when its performance across all objectives had been steadily declining for over the past 8 years. She said it was not right to single out Harewood Christopher as a failure when her performance is no worse than any of her immediate predecessors. Well, I don't agree with that. Just so you know, Miss Chotak threw out this as a fact statement, and I don't agree with that fact, that her performance is no worse than any of her immediate predecessors. How have we established that? On what grounds have we established this? Chotak said to do so is more of an indictment of the administration overseeing the TTPS than the individuals appointed to manage it. Again, the same kind of nonsense that we hire you to do a job. You are incapable. You hire a plumber to do the plumbing in your house. You ask him, I had $2,000. You could do the plumbing for me? He said, yeah, of course, boy, that more than doing, I could do that, boy, yeah, boy. All right, you hire the plumber. 2 weeks pass, and he come on the next Monday online, boss, money run out and I can't really do this job, and some plumbing friend come in to tell you can't really blame the plumber for that. The $2,000 just wasn't enough to do the plumbing job. So plumber man didn't know that when he take the job. You didn't know that when you took the job, that the resources weren't enough to actually do the job. You can't come now when you already get the job to say, well, it wasn't really able to be done anyway. Nobody could have do this job. Well, you should have leave it for the next. Double G promised that he could have done the job. If you're saying that she couldn't, leave her out of the runnings because she couldn't. Give it to somebody who believes they can. And listen where this lack of accountability goes, the weird direction it goes. She referred to a newspaper article which suggests that Harewood Christopher has been more successful in meeting goals set out before her within the first year in office than those who came before her. I don't believe a moment of that. That newspaper article is rubbish. But carry on. The question is therefore repeated as to why Erla is being singled out and criticized for her performance when her predecessors did not attract this level of vitriolic scrutiny. Chotak argued the answer to that question could be based only on factors outside of the COP's office. You all should guess with the direction this going in. You all should guess the direction this foolishness going in. Should this be the case, she said, then really we need to look at our society to discover where the real problem might lie. Because as a society, you all are too misogynistic. You all don't like women. That's the problem. Because the society vex that a commissioner come in, say she going to reduce murders. Fail at it. Fail at the questioning. And the society is upset. And no, how dare you be upset as a society? No, you're a misogynist. It's because she's a woman. All you do like women. That's what's going on with all the trainees. And this is what I hate about this diversity, equity, inclusion rubbish that we went and pick up from the National Guard in the United States, winning awards for women, peace, and security, because you know our national security is getting gender equality inside of there. People dropping like flies, and we studying who have enough skirts and who have enough blouses in their ranks. And if the society is too hard on a woman in leadership, listen, woman, you went into the place of leading the national security. I hope, you know what I would like for Tanti Ula to come out in her next press conference and tell all these feminist posers all around the country, don't defend me. Don't defend me. Don't defend me on a woman basis. It makes it look worse. I don't understand how all of these brilliant feminists don't seem to understand this. When you attempt to when you attempt to soften the blow because she's a woman, that doesn't add to the confidence of the society in hiring women. If it is that as a society, when I hire a woman now I had to be stepping on glass and eggshells every time I correct her, because you know it's a woman. You don't wanna get too serious because they would look at you as a misogynist. Then best we do hire women. Chotak said it was interesting that while the male, and she noted there were male members of the JSC were critical of Harewood Christopher's performance, none pointed a finger toward the government that has consistently starved the police of funding and resources necessary for actual progress to be made. But here's the folly in this. Was the government before the JSC? Imagine how stupid this will be. I have to pronounce this in the Trinidad parlance. Imagine how stupid it would be for a joint select committee to bring the commissioner of police before them. And when the commissioner talks, this was one of the best JSCs I have seen in action. What you want from a joint select committee is for members of your parliament to go in and ask the questions that the members of the public would want to ask. Listen, the members of the public want to ask some real hard and maybe even disrespectful questions of Tanti Ula. And it's the job of the Joint Select Committee to take those questions, distill it into their essence, and go to Tanti Ula and get it answered on behalf of the public. What you talking about? So because she wears a skirt, the public shouldn't ask her hard questions anymore? Yes, Tony the ambassador. And if it is that the government is starving them of funding, then as the commissioner, her answer should be that we lack funding in those areas. I don't think she even answered one reply about the problem being a lack of funding. Was there anything answered in the Joint Select Committee where the commissioner said the issue we have is a lack of funding? She wondered if the same line of questionings would hold for the Prime Minister or National Security Minister if they were to appear before the committee. When you're so obsessed with making yourself the victim, you don't think. Dr. Rowley is called Rowlaya, Bobby Head, and a whole cadre of other less exultant names. On a daily, he is called that all over. Minister Hines went down in Beetham and get dirty water kick splash on him. What are you talking about? Like if the society goes easier on the men than the women. Do any of you see a possibility in Trinidad and Tobago? Good night, Dane, can I see you over on Facebook too? Where the Trini public kicks dirty water on any female politician or official? Do you see that happening? And all right, Double G was a bit near Beetlejuice kind of vibe, constantly jumping up at anybody calling his name. But there were people who used to go out of their way to insult Double G online, talk about his son, talk about his wife. Of the insults that Tanti Erla gets, very few of them I've seen are that kind of personal nature. So what are you talking about? Chotak said she waited to see whether at his news conference on Tuesday, Rowley would add his voice to the baritone chorus that has been formed to harmonize the tragedy of Erla Christopher. Wow. That sounds like the real kind of feminist statement, you know, the baritone chorus. Because, you know, it's only male voices out there criticizing. You know, it's only the males. It's only a baritone chorus criticizing Erla. Because women, and this is the other foolish assumption of feminism, that somehow women must jump in line behind their fellow sex. I could tell you, I know lots of women that don't like Erla at all. They want her gone since months ago. And they're very much women too. So I would say it's a mixed chorus, Madam Chotak. It's not just a baritone chorus, it's a pretty mixed chorus. If you know how this angle aggravates me of attempting to defend the commissioner. Because she's a politician. Well, not a politician. She is that level of official. Yeah. You remember you sent that to me? The Calypso. What? I believe it was fish he was talking about. But that's how it goes. That's how it goes. Would you demand protection from that? Good night, Rose Petal Angel Nick. The Commissioner of Police's job is too important to defend her just on simple gender basis or any basis. Listen how serious this job is. Commissioner of Police given till Tuesday to revoke stand on FULs being invalid. Police Commissioner Earl Herwood Christopher has until February 6 to retract her position on renewal of firearm user licenses on February 4th. Attorneys for firearms dealer Taufik Ali and other fire FUL holders gave the ultimatum. At the start of this year, the commissioner announced that all FUL holders had to renew their permits, including those who issued FULs before 2004, when the act was amended. In a response to a flurry of letters, attorney to the commissioner asked until February 1st to respond, and basically they doubled down. So what the commissioner is basically saying is all firearm users' licenses must be renewed. Any that are older than 3 years must be renewed. Now, the reality is there was a law previously that allowed for older licenses to be much more simple, to just be re-upped. They paid a small fee and re-upped their firearm user license. The commissioner is saying no, that's not going to work. Everyone has to renew their license. That's going to cause a lot of people who were once licensed firearm owners to basically be criminals now, because their licenses will be revoked. And considering this commissioner with 25,000 applications is passing 100 for the year, you wonder if all of those licenses that now go in for renewal, you would only have a small percentage of them being allowed to be renewed. And then I wonder if, as part of her and the government strategy, they're trying actually to remove licensed firearms and ammunition from the population. Good night, David Bostock. This move could nearly look like something like that. You're attempting to criminalize, as it were, a lot of firearm user license holders by saying their licenses would now be expired. This state of affairs, which the commissioner has now asserted, also materially affects the operations of all security companies who employ precepted armed security officers. We are certain that the commissioner appreciates that this stated position affects the men and women who have served in the TTPS and who are currently serving in the TTPS. Sad to say, but there's a possibility that our government is using this to seek outside assistance. How? How would that happen? They're basically saying that all of those previous licenses have to come in for renewal now. And that previous law that allowed them to just continue being renewed as is doesn't stand. Now, the point that some of the lawyers are making in this case is, if that's the case, then you're saying that all of these people have been functioning illegally for a long time now. Is that what you're trying to say? And is it that now, being a woman, you know, we should feel sorry and go lightly on the police commissioner, even though it seems like she may be trying to remove the protection, armed protection, from the civilians and citizenry. But no. Go soft. She's a woman. And it's not her fault. It's the fault of those above, you know. It's the fault of the legislators, those that make the laws. No, it's not the fault of the executors of. And you know, let's look at something. I regularly say this: the culture enforces the law. The police don't enforce laws. The police enforce what they're ordered to, and they don't enforce what the culture wouldn't allow. I think you could guess that, Glenroy Dennis. On another note, why the boss was in Langley, Virginia getting instructions, and from who CXX 914 asks, we did a bit of that. We did a bit of digging into that, where in his interview as he came back, his press conference as he came back, he spoke about them being fully supportive of the global rule-based order, the international rules-based order, and the international rules-based order. And if you look at what that is, that speaks about something very specific, talking about global orders and the global those who be the globalists, as it were, those who believe in that more unification on a wider international scale. And he spoke about buying fully along with that. So it's no surprise that he was there. We have signed on to the Women, Peace and Security in our national security infrastructure. And then what would you know, we have launched a Women, Peace and Security group that is supposed to be doing something to be making us more secure here in Trinidad and Tobago. And as I point out, that is going to cost us money. And that very likely came as a primary result of someone in foreign insisting we must do this. So that's what he was doing over there in Langley, CXX. Dane Khan says, is the PSC fault? And, well, the PSC may be just following orders themselves. Fireflame says, yet she won't investigate how criminals getting defense force ammo. Well, I saw that the police and the defense force mentioned that they had an audit of their ammunition and found none missing. So I guess that closed the case. The defense force and the police did an audit. No ammunition is missing. So who knows how the ammunition is coming out of criminals' guns? Maybe those criminals are carving TTPS and TTDF on the back of their cartridges all on their own. And the back of their shells, they're doing that all on their own, you know. Who knows where those bullets come from? But as I said, laws are enforced culturally. And that's one of the reasons I am regularly upset when I see the police enforcing foolish laws. Because if put in the position where it's culturally unacceptable, all the police who talk about the law is the law, all this talk about the law is the law is thrown out the window. Patrons party in camouflage, hundreds in illegal wear at Army Fete. A reminder that wearing camouflage clothing is illegal. When Commissioner of Police Erla Christopher appeared before the Parliament's Joint Select Committee on National Security on Wednesday, did not prevent several hundred patrons from donning combat fatigue-themed outfits at the Army Fete on Friday night. While partygoers were observed wearing camouflage print pants and tops, the Express was told no one was warned or arrested by the police. Where all the police who talk about the law is the law? Why they didn't run in the fete and start arresting people? You know the law is the law. A little lawless. Okay. Well, enforce such law. You would see a baby in pink camo walking down the road and want to strip them down to their diapers. But a party full of actual dark green camo. No. I heard about that Richard Globman, but I didn't actually watch news tonight, so I don't know what he said. What did he say about it? And the minister isn't even supposed to have a say really in it because it's the law. The police are the ones who are supposed to determine this, and that's what they tell us. The minister is the police are supposed to operate independently from the minister. The minister doesn't give the police directives. So what does he have to say about it? What should he have to say about it? And you know, I was reading something. One from one of the defense consultants in Trinidad and Tobago, and he was talking about the importance of the law and don't disrespect the law and you don't want the law to crumble and all of that and all of that. And then I was reading the response that came from Gary Griffith. And to me, this response is one of the reasons that I think Gary Griffith was actually better in the portfolio of commissioner than many others. I know, Darlan Rice, I know. Former Commissioner of Police Griffith expressed a different view, saying that the laws banning the use of any aspect of camouflage clothing needed to be changed. The law as it stands needs to be amended. When I was Minister of National Security, I did some research into countries which had the use of camouflage clothing as a criminal offense. And there were just under 20 countries with such laws. A lot of those countries are in the Caribbean. Now, to be fair, there is some justification for it. As if persons acquire actual clothing that fully resemble that of police or defense force, they can use these items to imitate law enforcement. However, the issue in this country is that any aspect of camouflage clothing is a crime. And to me, the law could reflect what you're trying to do. It could be a crime to impersonate a law enforcement agent or a law enforcement officer. Fine, that's a crime. Wearing camouflage isn't necessarily impersonating an officer. Like, if I'm wearing camouflage and I have a big beard with a handlebar mustache, obviously, I'm not trying to impersonate an officer. Listen to what Griffith has had to say here. The reasons why laws are enacted are not to inconvenience your citizens or to make life difficult, but to ensure some degree of control for safety and security. So then how does any aspect of clothing, let's say short pants or a pink toy for a child, affect national security? I don't think that's the phrasing of the law in Richard Globman. If I'm correct, I think the law speaks to the use of camouflage outside of the defense force, not for the use of camouflage resembling the defense force. If the case was the use of camouflage resembling the defense force, then the people who were suing the government about seizing their camouflage prints that were pink and white about a year or two ago would have won. So I am not sure if the minister is attempting to play smart with foolishness there. We know that for years in this country, people have been arrested for all shades of camouflage. To come now and make it seem like that was never the case and that was never the law, there needs to be some amount of explaining done. And there needs to be some amount of apologizing then. You need to go inside the wherever the police keeps all of their seized goods, well, probably inside some police officers' closet by now, and give the people back their pink camo and their white camo and their blue camo because you seized it for years. To come now and say, well, you know, it's anything impersonating the TTDF. Don't make it seem like Trinidadians made that whoopsie mistake, or they didn't catch that, or they didn't know that, or they didn't catch that. Trinidadians have been pointing that out for years and still having their baby blue camouflage stolen. Like, you know, they were attempting to hide out in the ocean. I think it was interpretation. So then how do we know that the minister's interpretation is the right one? Where does he get his interpretation? And if that is the minister's interpretation, why didn't the minister make that announcement since 2015 when the PNM came into power? Since 2015, do you know how many people in blue camo have been stopped? There was an incident at the airport that made national news, and that same minister didn't come out to speak about it then. So how come the interpretation only changed now when we recognize a whole fet full of people ignored it? Interpretation, eh? But I like Gary's view there. Laws are not meant to inconvenience your citizens. Fire Flame says, Customs once took blue pajamas from my 2-year-old son like he go in and play solely in daycare. Like, bro, any children size camo, there's no defense force made in children size. Defense force has no 6-year-olds. A 6-year-old cannot, by very definition, cannot impersonate a law enforcement officer. Why are you taking the children clothes? Sweet TNT. One last story for the evening. Last story we're jumping into for this evening here. And it's something that I am pleasantly surprised in a way. You don't usually see this. TTPS SWA calls for demotions of 29 police officers. The Police Social and Welfare Association is tackling the police. The TNT Police Social and Welfare Association wants Police Commissioner to revoke the promotions of 29 officers who were erroneously promoted last year. When the issue was raised at the JSC on crime last week, members of the TTPS executive said the glitch involving police officers being promoted from constable to corporals was fixed 2 weeks ago. However, the TTPS SWA is calling for a thorough investigation to determine what went wrong. In a letter to Herwood Christopher dated February 1st, the association's president said his members were angered, frustrated, and demotivated. In light of these issues, the following are the association's recommendations. A. Revoke the promotion of the 29 officers erroneously promoted. B. Have an independent investigation into what caused the glitch. C. Apply 142.2 for additional promotions from the senior ranks down so that additional vacancies will be created. And D. Release the scores of the officers in the departmental order. This bacchanal is not going away. And I like it to some extent. To be very honest, I kind of like it. I kind of want some adversity within the police service, as it were. Like, compete with each other or something. Stir it up a little bit, something. Like, maybe in Trinidad and Tobago, what we need is 2 police services. And every district could determine which one of the 2 police services we want and which one we choose gets more money. So the police service that we choose gets more money, and the one who doesn't, well, they stay broke. Like, bringing some kind of competition in there, something to stop this thing. The only thing that the police seem to awaken for competition is the promotions. I have never seen the TTPS SWA speak about the police in a bad light. Except when it comes to promotions. Yeah, demote them. Demote them. Interesting. And it's also interesting to me that they're demanding a full investigation into the glitch, because it could seem like they don't believe the glitch happened the way the executive said it happened. Because the executive explained the glitch inside of the Joint Select Committee. They said it was a PowerPoint issue, an Excel spreadsheet issue, where they deleted some repeated names, and it shifted some of the columns shifted, some of the rows shifted, and maybe some of the cells were mismatched to each other. And that was the issue, they said. If that was the issue, there's nothing to investigate. But the Social and Welfare Association for the Police are still demanding a complete independent investigation. And personally, I wouldn't be surprised if there in fact is more to this. I somehow find the Excel spreadsheet explanation, I find that a little lacking. You mean nobody double checks this? Simple spreadsheet mistake makes it that far? Nobody at any point in time triggered any kind of... You're trying to tell me if I want to sabotage the police whole promotions, all I need to do is delete one cell on a spreadsheet, and that damages the whole thing? Okay. It really... Yeah, Richard. I find that explanation is shaky. When I heard it first off, I sat down and I was listening. They delete. Some people didn't come when they were supposed to come. They came later, so their names were placed multiple times on the spreadsheet. Then they deleted some of the multiple times that their names were placed. And because of that, it would have deleted from the names column, but not from the marks column. So, it would shift some names, making some names misalign. Bro, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. That one feels just... Because I work spreadsheet, I use Excel. When you delete a cell, you scroll the whole column, you double check. Well, Richard, that's what you have to ask. The whole row wasn't deleted, just this cell. Bro, because here are some things. What would be along inside of that row? Wouldn't that row include the person's gender? Probably. I think there's more information than just name and mark. Just... They're only making people in this country look real and see what the reasons for crap, the red man says. Richard Gloveman says, but then you would have an empty cell. Richard Gloveman, I am telling you, something smells fishy from Excel. A fish died inside of that Excel sheet, and it is smelling very fishy on the inside there. Glenn Roy Dennis says, some shafting going on there. Dallin Rice, they have a unique Excel program over the police. I do not know how the TTPS police Excel spreadsheet works necessarily. I am not sure. I do know, I have heard through the grapevine that it seems to be it seems to have had a gendered lean in the mistake promotions. It would be interesting to do some digging up on those who were mistakenly promoted to see if there's anything that may be favorable linking them to higher ups, to see if it's all just random mistake for real, or there seems to be more in the mortar than just the pestle. Oh, good grief. Fishy is the wig supplier. You see she wig. Oh gosh, Dalan Rice. Oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh. Tantula is a tants. That's, you know, in that kind of realm. Like, personally, I don't like wigs. Like, my personal opinion is whatever condition your natural hair is in, I would personally find that looks better than to throw a wig on your head. But they each their own. It's not my head. It's not my mother. Not my granny, not my auntie. Like they need a system like internal affairs in other countries. Well, we have the professional. The major problems with the police and investigations, though, is that even if they are charged, it's a problem to pass the conviction stage. The conviction stage usually requires people to give evidence, and the police function to a large extent like the largest gang in the country. So who is going to give evidence against them? To me, I look out and I see a problem with convicting police officers. Yeah, you charge quite a few of them. How many are convicted? I see a problem there. All right, people. That's all I have for now. If there are no further comments or questions on the inside, I hope you are educated, informed, or entertained. I am Nathan Springer. This has been the Mindful Live, and I'll see you guys again for the next one, starting tomorrow around that 9:30 p.m. time. See you then. Blessed night, people. Hold it down. Peace. I'm out.